Welcome to our Thursday Stomp Tish. Back at the sanctuary, and so still have our Sam Adams.
The cold snap.
Yeah, Sam Adams seasonal.
Appropriate for today, isn't it?
It is, because it is in the 30s right now, and it is a sunny day, beautiful day, but cold.
Yes,
we'll take it.
Both those things.
So, in our Stomp Tish today, we're going to do something a little bit different because we're not in the story right now. We have 2 weeks off of the story, and we're going to
Just a quick pause.
A pause, and it's a timely pause. We're in that time period between when the Old Testament ends and before the Jesus and the New Testament begins, right? And so covers about 400 years of emptiness that the Bible just doesn't have anything there. But it's not like the world stopped during that time. So next week, tune in. We're going to talk about that some more, and
it's like one of those never covered topics. I don't ever remember. I'm trying to remember if my entire youth growing up I ever heard someone talk about the intertestamental period of time. Because I'm pretty sure when I got to college and I'm like, who are the Maccabees and Judith Tobit? Never even heard of those kinds of things.
Yeah, so there's some books that are not in the Bible, but we'll call them extra biblical, I guess, apocryphal.
Yep.
But anyways, there's some good stuff. There's a lot of great things that we can talk about.
Some of it's history, some of it's kind of more literary.
I'm going to tell you, it's going to make me scratch my head. Okay, and it's going to make me open up some books and have to do some reading.
Absolutely. No, it'll be fun though.
In the meantime, today we want to talk about prayer and fasting, and I don't know if that. I mean, obviously, I think everybody knows what prayer is. We talk about that enough. So probably more fasting, although I would say you typically wouldn't connect or disconnect the two. So when we talk about fasting, you really can't talk about it without talking about prayer, because it's a form of prayer.
It's just that fasting is the thing that we never talk about. We encourage people to pray all the time, so they're used to hearing us talk.
And when you think, the crazy radical Lutherans, right, they fast, or the crazy radical Christians.
Who are the crazy radical Lutherans?
I don't know. Whoever fasts, they're crazy and radical. I don't know. If I was in a church and I'm like, that guy's fasting? So weird.
This 2 weeks, we're going to cover things that really I don't think I ever covered in my entire life. So next week we'll do intertestamental. This week we're doing fasting, and again, I don't think I ever heard someone mention fasting when I was growing up.
No.
Other than like during Lent, people kind of talked about giving stuff
they
up.
talk about it. Everybody talks about it. Nobody does it.
Well, no, certainly not like abstaining from food. It was like a food item, maybe.
Yeah. So fasting's not a bad thing.
No.
And one of the things I want to encourage is to do some of your own study and research on it. But I would even tell you fasting is a good thing. It's hard for us to say fasting is not a good thing. It is all over in the Bible. Some of our most heroed, Jesus. Okay. most heroed biblical.
You're just looking at the names.
Persons.
It's Moses, Daniel, David, Jesus, John the Baptist. Yeah, I mean, you really, if all those guys fasted,
all the apostles did.
Yes.
So all of fasting was just a known thing as part of the.
It was assumed.
It was assumed that if you're a Christian, you're going to fast. It was assumed in the Jewish people. It was assumed for the first Christians. And it's not that assumption has ever left. It's still very much a part of our theology. It's part of our religion. It's part of our spirituality. It's not maybe a comfortable thing. Is it necessary? And I think this is maybe where people get a little caught up, and they go, well, I don't have to fast to be Christian. And it's like, no, you don't have to fast to be Christian. You also don't have to pray to be Christian. Should you pray? Yes. Should I fast? Probably I should do it more than I do, which is never.
It's another one of those. Here's the problem I think we oftentimes end up with, is there's certain things, and fasting's one of them, that when we reacted against some Roman Catholic abuses of the thing, we threw out, the old, trope is the baby with the bathwater. It's very much like confession and absolution. Yep. Martin Luther encouraged everyone, do confession and absolution, do it. And we're like, that's been abused, and so we throw it on out.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't all bad. The abuses within it were bad.
Exactly.
But the theological fallacies that were in it were bad. Yeah. But the practice of it is good. To hear God's grace spoken after I confess my sins, that's a wonderful thing. Mm-hmm. So we do. We throw the baby out with the bathwater. Fasting is one of those things. I say never. I have fasted, and it's not to pat myself on the back. It is a challenging thing.
It is.
It does force you to think.
It's a whole different experience within your body.
It is.
I mean, I was
start
talking
connecting
to
some of the spirituality to the physical.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing when we connect those two things.
But there's even just this physical experience that most of us are never, ever experienced. I was talking with Laura about this, and she was saying that when they were youth, they did the 40-hour famine or whatever that was. I remember that was a big deal when we were in high school. Or you don't?
Nope.
Anyways, it was a big thing once upon a time was that churches would have their youth groups fast and raise money for world hunger or something like that. I think it was called the 40-hour family or something like that. My youth group never did it, but I remember other youth groups doing it. Anyways, but I was just talking with her. It's just when you fast, like we're used to eating 3 meals a day. If you only eat 2 meals a day, you're like, man, I was kind of hungry one time. Yeah. But when you actually skip 3 whole meals in a day, and by the time you roll on to that next day and you're sitting there at 30, 34 hours, you're like, your body's starting to experience things we're never used to experiencing. Right. Not just, I'm a little hungry because I missed a meal, or I'm really hungry because I missed a couple of meals or had very little, but to miss like a whole day's worth of food, like your body starts to do different things.
Let me ask you, do you have a memorable fast of any time you fasted? It's not that we're trying to brag. Again. I'm afraid of that scripture that says when you fast, don't wear it on the streets,
don't talk about it.
So here we are.
So how are we going to talk about it without talking about it? I mean, this is...
we're just talking about it. Go for it. What, do you have a favorite one? I have one. That's why.
Favorite one?
Or a memorable one?
So, like, the most regularly that I ever fasted was when I was, like, in college. And a group of guys ended up saying, let's fast every week on Wednesdays. And for a while we did. We fasted every week on Wednesdays. And it was kind of cool because we would come together and we'd do prayer time that night. And I just always remember that was a really neat thing because we'd spent all day waking our bodies up to the fact that, we're not eating. Something's
this day's going to be different. Yeah.
And then that night we would sit down together in this big group of people in the basement of one of our dorm rooms and pray. And I was like
lining your body with your soul in a little way. And so we had one. It just when we were on Vicarage, Hurricane Katrina came and they sent us on a spiritual respite because Katrina was a very stressful time. We lived in South Louisiana, and so when we went they sent us to what's the fancy Aspen, Colorado.
Oh, okay.
So we went to Aspen, Colorado, and while we were there, we ate real well. But on one of the days, we did a 24-hour fast.
Okay.
And the 24-hour fast, it started, I don't know, one morning. It ended. We went to, I want to say it was a Franciscan monastery in Snowmass, Colorado. One of the most beautiful, pristine places I've ever seen.
This is by Aspen somewhere there?
Outside of Aspen, yeah. And one of the things that was really cool about it was a silent monastery, so the monks did not speak. They would only speak during 1 hour of the day.
This was a permanent status then?
Yeah. So they spoke 1 hour of the day. The monks did, and that was during the meal time. And so we went and watched them as they went through their services. They did make noise as they sang. They sang the psalms and went through a worship service.
So other than the hours, they had 1 hour of actually talking.
Conversation, right. And we broke our fast as we sat down with them during that hour and had a conversation with all these monks who lived in this monastery. And
that would be memorable.
Kind of one of the cool things I remember that is while we were there, here we are watching them. We're thinking about how difficult that would be to be in that kind of a setting. And I was like, man, y'all are just, I'm amazed at how strong y'all are spiritually. I couldn't do that. And they're like, I said that, and one of the monks said, we're not strong spiritually. We're hiding up here. He says, he goes, you're doing the work of God because you're out there in the world where the challenges and the temptations and everything are always before you, right? And he says, so you are the ones who are strong. We're weak up here.
It's interesting that you would actually own that and say that.
Yeah, it made me feel so good about myself.
Did you sneak him some Martin Luther so that he could read it?
I should have. Well, they knew who we were. But
that just would have been funny if a Reformation broke out amongst them.
I should have snuck him a phone and I'll call you.
There's a way out.
I want to hear more. So
we'll get some empty beer barrels and you can sneak out in them.
But I'll tell you, in the middle of that fast, though, as we were chanting the Psalms and in an incredible setting. I mean, I can't describe how amazing it was. It was neat because our bodies were experiencing something, but we knew that it helped our mind and everything kind of focused together, and it was a good thing. The reason we're talking about fasting is, I mentioned at our voters meeting, you may or may not have been to it, but that we're going to have a call for our congregation to fast, and the reasoning is, twofold. One is because Lent's coming, and it's just to prepare. Ash Wednesday's next Wednesday in 6 days, to prepare for kind of Lent and Ash Wednesday, The other reason is because I see hope kind of looking for its next kind of, I don't know what to say, movement. I don't know if there's a better word.
Preparation for the next phase.
Preparation for the next phase, whatever that means. And somebody
yeah.
says, well, what is that phase? What are we supposed to do? I don't know. That's why I want to spend some time in prayer and fasting. I think if we do that together as a congregation and seek God's will, seek His guidance, seek His word, I think we'll start to bring some clarity. What does that mean? One of the things I did talk about is I do want it to mean that we focus on reaching out to others with the gospel, right? So individually that we can challenge ourselves with that, and collectively as a church that we can challenge ourselves with that. So that's kind of the focus, and that's why we're doing it. Is before we start putting plans together and strategies together, maybe we need to first sit at the feet of our Lord and say, hey, I need to prepare, make sure that we're in the right heart and the right mind. But so fasting, so why did I choose fasting? Well, for a number of reasons. One of them is because if you look at all the examples, and we printed out just pages of examples of fasting.
Gabby actually printed it out for us.
That's true, Gabby did. But as we look at the printed out pages of examples of fasting in the scriptures, I just kind of went through and read them and try to chart is maybe the wrong word.
Find the themes, yeah.
Find the themes of what was the reasoning, what was going on. So if you look, Moses, he before he goes and receives the Ten Commandments, before he approaches the Mount Sinai, which is where God's presence was, he knew that I can't just go walk up and interact with God. I first must prepare myself, right, by prayer and fasting.
It's another one of those physical things. So whether it's washing or whether it's bowing or what, it's another physical way to get yourself, mind, body, soul ready. Right.
And so for 40 days and 40 nights, he fasted. He says he never didn't take either bread or drink. One of the things I'm like, nobody can live that long, so it makes you. There's a lot of scholars that do assumptions that maybe it was just during certain periods of the time he didn't need just a. But he was there
supernatural. That's
while he was there with the Lord, he fasted.
Yeah.
However he did it, or supernaturally, or strategically, it doesn't matter. The point was he fasted, and that wasn't so that he would earn salvation. It's not like God would. I'm not going to talk to you. You didn't fast. But it was more for Moses to be in a proper heart and mind to receive God's message. So he was preparing himself.
Right. Yeah.
We mentioned one of the things in the handout that we're going to give this Sunday, it mentions Daniel fasting from entertainment.
So Daniel, remember, fasts.
Not Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar.
But Nebuchadnezzar. So you saw Daniel right here. That's one of the next ones. So Daniel does fast to kind of, after he has a vision, because he's like, what on earth does this mean? I'm trying to figure out what to do. And then there's a couple references in the stories to Daniel and his friends fasting. Right.
And they were seeking answers.
Yes,
they were
exactly.
seeking guidance.
Yep, exactly.
Sorry, I got confused. And then there's a thing of Nebuchadnezzar fasts after Daniel in the lion's den, right?
And that's a real interesting one.
So I don't know if it says that he refrained from entertainment.
And so, of course, Old Testament people love to speculate about what he's refraining from.
Right.
Was it music? Was it the ladies? Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Couldn't we call it a fast? Well, they didn't. But what is a fast except it's just refraining from something?
Yeah.
It often refers to food. So something else you could think
something
about.
that you sustain yourself with, something that maybe is part of the senses and the pleasures that a person experiences. Yeah.
So, I think this is something that we could use to fast from. So I'm going to challenge my girls. I'm not going to force them because I think that takes away from the spiritual benefit of it. But I'm going to challenge them to say, hey, why don't we fast from this outside of communication? You're right, because I still need to be able to call them. But outside of communication, maybe we can take away the social media aspect of it and music, right, and all that stuff.
Well, the point always, when you take something away, you notice it, right? Mm-hmm. But it also makes you think, what do I want to fill it up with? Right. And that's that's the famous Matthew 4 text where Jesus, man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. And I think we notice this, anytime something's taken away. This wasn't fasting or anything like that, but my wife and I were challenged by something we were doing recently to take something out of life that was significant to us, and just notice the experience. We weren't challenged to put something else in. And so I quit playing games on my phone. And so for 10 weeks, I didn't play any games on my phone whatsoever. But there were times when I was used to normally I would play a game. What am I going to do now? And the thing I ended up starting to fill up my time with was just reading. Because I'm like, okay, I need some other kind of good entertainment type of thing that I could do that would be better than just playing the game. And man, did I love it. I haven't read a book for fun in so long.
Yeah, how great is it when we get bored for once?
Absolutely. And so this is the cool thing where if we take some of these other things, then spiritually speaking, we're saying, oh, what do I put in?
Right. Another reference that I saw was David when he fasted in mourning. I think this is one of the most well-known examples of fasting is when someone is sad and it helps mourn. But again, why? Because in that time of mourning, we want to reconnect with our Lord. We want to reconnect with Him.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot that in fasting that has to do with our grieving and seeking God's guidance.
Yeah, I mean, you think of Nineveh, right? That's a famous example. Remember when Jonah comes and preaches to the people of Nineveh, they put on sackcloth and ashes at the fast.
Sorry if y'all are hearing the songs. I don't know how loud it is, if y'all can even hear us, but we'll find out. The Ninevites, they fasted in mourning. And so that gets us to the New Testament. We get to Jesus. Probably the most well-known fast is when he fasted for the 40 days
in the desert.
in the wilderness and was tempted by the devil. And again, what people I think don't realize is in that fast, Jesus is preparing himself for the ministry that he's about to embark upon. So the context of when that fast happens, Jesus just gets out of the waters of baptism, and he immediately goes from the waters of baptism straight to the wilderness for fasting. And while he's there fasting, he's preparing for the ministry, that 3 years of ministry that he has. So,
one thing I saw even connected it to like kind of some discernment on his part, not only dealing with the devil or whatever then, but he was about to pick his disciples. Can you imagine what a big choice that was?
Yeah.
And so there's a little bit of discernment too, like, okay, I got to get myself in the right place because this is going to be a big decision that I make in terms of who the people I am that I'm going to pick to be my closest followers.
Right. So, the early church,
I guess that flows into that.
Then fasted when Judas is not there and they have to choose another one, and it falls down to Matthias.
Matthias,
or am I getting my references mixed up? Anyways, but they seek guidance so they fast to seek God's guidance before they cast lots and do things like that. So it's often met with prayer. I think the point is it's not done as a health reason. It's not a weight loss program, but it's meant to be combined with prayer and combined with seeking God and seeking His guidance. I'd encourage you to give it a shot, to think about it.
Think about your goals for it. That was one of the things I
be
saw
intentional
encouraged
about it.
over and over again.
That's a great.
Well, what do you want to accomplish with this?
Right.
Not just like, oh, okay, I avoided sugar for 10 days or something like that, or I skipped a meal for 10 days and stuff. But think about what you want to add in, but also like, what do you want God to guide you?
Why are you fasting?
What are you going to pray about?
Yes.
So
why
that's
are
a
you
good thing
fasting?
to be thinking about.
Yeah, great. The last thing I want to say is it's required. Again, we don't want to ever say that you have to do this for salvation or anything like that, but it is a good spiritual exercise. So again, no different than prayer. One of the verses is when Jesus talks to the people about fasting. Don't be hypocrites, right? Where you look all sunken in and you look like you're
put ash
you're
on
like,
your
oh my
face.
goodness, I've been fasting for so long, right? And that's going to be the conversation.
So if you put it on social media for 10 days and take pictures of yourself.
Fast day 1, fast day 2, right? And
don't wear makeup.
I'm not going to wear makeup.
Never worn makeup.
Wow.
Sorry.
I might wear it. No.
So wear some makeup.
Don't start wearing makeup
don't start
because
wearing
you're fasting. No, and when Jesus talks about it, and so one of the things that we read was it says, it makes note of the fact that Jesus says, not if you fast, but when you fast this way.
Things, yeah.
So there's an assumption on the Lord that says, no, you're going to fast because it's a part of being a Christian. It's a part of being a spiritual person. You're going to fast. So when you do it, this is how to do it. Not if you're going to do it, this is how you do it. I don't know if there's something really to be made of that exegetically or theologically, but I do think that fasting is a part of the Christian life, always has been. I think it always will be. It's maybe not part of our spirituality, but it could be, and it should be maybe. And you can even make that argument.
So maybe this is just a place for first steps for people
Yeah.
too.
Give
So
her a shot.
Give it a shot. Even if you say it for one day, I'm going to do a fast on Ash Wednesday, and even if it's not from all food, it's just pick something
Yeah.
small, try it, experiment with it, see what you get out of it too.
Think about it. Here's what I would say, just like exercise, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to tie it to a weight loss or health benefit, but make sure it works for you. I say this the same analogy for when people want to read the Bible. I'm like, for me, I'm like, I'll go from, I don't read the Bible regularly to, I'm going to read the whole Bible in a day, right? And I'm an all or none kind of a person. It's like, well, don't do that, right? So don't say if you've never fasted, the next 10 days I'm not eating anything. I would not do that.
Yeah.
Make sure it works for you, it's healthy for you, it's beneficial to you. If starving yourself that's not going to be spiritually beneficial to you, right? But
because after a couple days you're going to stop.
You're
then
going to
feel like a failure, and you're going to shame
all
yourself.
Sorts of things that will go wrong with it. So be wise about it, and but first steps would be great. God's blessings to y'all.
Good.
Have a great day.
See you Sunday.
See you Sunday. All right. Sorry, it got real loud all of a sudden.